What's up, everyone? Good to be with you. Second show of the day for me, and who knows, probably like the seventh for Greg Ehrenberg. I am Adam Kaufman. It's wonderful to be with you all out there watching, and also just wonderful to be with Greg again, because last week when I found out, all right, guys, you're not going to do the Thursday NFL show anymore this year because we're done with Thursday night football. So we'll just, let's have you do an NBA show on Wednesdays. That work for you? Yeah, great. Sign me up. Didn't even know I was going to still be working with you. So really not much has changed here. This is good.
Yeah, I filed an HR complaint. It fell on deaf ears. So here I am, back with you.
We got a lot to cover for what is now an 8-game slate. It was 9 earlier in the day when Jeff Ulrich and I were together for the Jock Market show. But the Miami game, as we had speculated at the time against the Spurs, there were rumblings. Well, that's not going to happen. That has been postponed. So we'll go position by position. We'll tell you a little bit of what you need to know. There is obviously a lot with regard to injuries and COVID and everything else. But first, as we always like to begin, this is going to be a hard-hitting, fast 20 minutes or so. I want to tell you we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy for this NBA season, folks, to bring you some great offers. You can check out our exclusive limited time offer. Gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. The 1 free month, you just click in the link below, redeem it. If you need any immediate access, that's fine. Email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you all set up. You can also receive up to a $100 first match deposit bonus with Yahoo when you use the promo code Xmas100. Don't believe that's expired yet. Tonight, Yahoo is featuring their $50,000 NBA baller, 1/3 of all entries being paid out. So make sure you enter that one. Remember, use the Yahoo DFS tools projections to help you win big. As we always tell you, stop guessing, start winning, and join Awesemo Plus today. So, Greg, just first and foremost, overarching thoughts on this slate, best plays, that type of thing. And then, like I said, we'll really blow through this thing position by position.
Yeah, so the game you talked about, the Miami Heat being canceled, that's obviously a huge wrinkle in this slate, and everybody was out for the Miami Heat, almost everybody. Enough players were out to the point they didn't have enough players to field the game. They'd signed some guy who played at the YMCA down the street. They were trying to cobble together. They signed Earl Clark, who hasn't played in the NBA since 2015, but he wasn't able to make it there in time. So ultimately, it was a team that was expected to have a whole bunch of value. I had built initial lineups today for all the sites I play on, and Yahoo included, and I was getting to a ton of Heat exposure, Tyler Hero in particular, and now that game isn't there. So it just totally changes the outlook of the slate. It looked like it was going to be a really strong stars and scrub slate, which is still generally the case on a lot of these more recent slates because of how many teams are shorthanded due to COVID. But now the pricing is a little bit more fair, not to the point where everybody's like, hey, we're just playing like 5 Miami Heat players.
So I know we have it set up there on our sidebar. You can see it, of course, guard, forward, center. I'm going to go even a little bit deeper into the weeds here. And let's start with the point guards specifically here, and then we'll get to the shooting guards. So Trae Young, who, you talk about the COVID situation for Miami. There are literally a dozen guys in protocols for the Atlanta Hawks, but Trae Young is not one of them. He's a very attractive play tonight. He's projected for about 54 points on Yahoo based on what our guy Alex Baker and the rest of the team have here. So he is in a very good spot. He's going to be popular. Damian Lillard after him, projected for about 47 points for the Blazers. You have John Morant, LaMelo Ball, Russell Westbrook to round out that top 5. Don't forget about SGA, obviously, in a solid spot. So that's your upper echelon. Who stands out to you most?
Yeah, so at the high end, it's going to be Trae Young for me, and it's a couple of things. Number one, like you said, the Hawks are shorthanded. Should I just, I could take up a whole bunch of time by reading the injury report here, which
I'll just tell you for the Hawks real quick. So Bogdan Bogdanovic, John Collins, Danilo Gallinari, Kevin Huerter, Lou Williams, DeLon Wright are among those that are out. Those are the biggest names that are out. And then there are a whole bunch more.
Yeah, it doesn't include guys like Gorgie Jang, Solomon Hill, Mark Ellison, Jalen Johnson, Sharif Cooper, I can't remember if it's DeAndre Hunter, not Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot. They've got more players that are on the injury report than are off the injury report. So we're going to see a situation with Trae Young, who now has a game underneath his belt. And, you always get a little concerned when players first come back from COVID. Are they going to have a minutes restriction? Are they going to have any kind of conditioning issues? First game back, did Trae Young play exceptionally? No, but he did play 40 minutes. He also had 32.9% usage rate. So we are going to expect today he's going to have a massive usage rate. He's going to play a whole bunch of minutes. $44 is just not a correct price for him. I have him projected for more fantasy points actually than any other player on the slate. There's enough value where it's easy enough to spend up for him. He makes a whole bunch of sense at point guard.
He is also a top 5 projected owned player as well, right around 32%. You mentioned the salary at 44. So obviously he's not cheap, but he's going to be out there because there are so few guys that are available for those Hawks. What about, another team with right behind, I mentioned him before, Damian Lillard. This Blazers team is another one that is seriously afflicted right now by guys being out, whether protocols or otherwise. There's still no CJ McCollum, Robert Covington, Ben McLemore, Yusuf Nurkic, Dennis Smith. All these guys are out. They've got 7 guys that are in protocols. This is a theme, if you guys haven't noticed, around the NBA at this point. So how good a spot is Dame in for you?
Yeah, so another thing with Damian Lillard also is he looks healthier than he did at the start of the year. He was dealing with an abdominal injury, which dated back to playing for Team USA over the summer. And he was just not himself to open up the season. He was still playing his minutes. The usage rate was high, but he was wincing a lot on the court. There was a lot of times he was getting around the basket and he wasn't finishing shots than he normally would have. He looks healthier to me over the last stretch of time, and he's at a usage rate over 30% in every game since November 29th. So we've gone through the entire month of December, 30+% usage rate in all those games for Damian Lillard. So I do think there's a lot of guys as secondary pay-up options at the point guard position. I said Trae Young is my favorite. And then I mix other guys kind of in a bag together. Damian Lillard, John Morant, Russell Westbrook. I think all of these guys are also really strong pay-up options, just not quite as strong as Trae Young. Point guard is my favorite position to pay up for today.
Someone we haven't even mentioned either, who is a point guard and shows up in the optimal lineup as things stand right now. And I throw in that caveat because, of course, we're still a couple hours away from lock. A lot can change. Tends to around the NBA these days. But Jalen Brunson, just outside of that top tier for Dallas here, projects to be about 20% owned. He is, he's going to find his way in a lot of people's lineups tonight as far as rostership goes. He's not a Young, a Lillard, a Morant, a Ball, a Westbrook, an SGA. But Jalen Brunson's a guy, should make some noise with Luka Doncic still out. What do you think?
Yeah, and he's priced incorrectly, $27. We're just looking at a guy in the mid-tier. And compare to where his salary is at on FanDuel and DraftKings, we're looking at a guy who's, been in the mid 7K range for the last few games. So he's not priced correctly at only $27 on Yahoo. I do prefer, just because we have the salary available to us, I'd rather get up to Dame, Morant, Westbrook, Trae Young. But Jalen Brunson still is priced incorrectly at $27 and certainly makes a whole bunch of sense until Luka comes back, which who knows when that's going to be. It appears to be soon-ish. But once again, these things always subject to change these days.
So from one Jalen to another, let's go to the shooting guard position, still staying at guard. No Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown will be the featured guy, more than typical, obviously, for the Boston Celtics, another team that is ravaged by guys in protocols. You're not going to have Schroeder. You're not going to have Richardson. You don't have Ennis Freedom either, but and again, Tatum won't be out there. So it's really Jaylen Brown, maybe Marcus Smart. He's a game time decision as things stand right now. Al Horford, some of the guys like that. And no Aaron Nesmith, which I just want to make note of again, because, you might find him in that same possession as Brown. Again, another thing that highlights Jaylen Brown is going to be featured. He's going to be about 30% owned. He is projected to be a top 5 owned guy on Yahoo as things stand again at this moment. So it's Jaylen Brown at the top, projected for about 43 points. Zach LaVine right behind him, a Chicago team that is mostly healthy. Then you have like Devin Booker and Karis LeVert, Desmond Bane, guys like that. But how much do you like that top tier?
Opportunity is everything. And Jaylen Brown, from a real life perspective, was not good in the Boston Celtics last game. He turned the ball over 6 times. He was crazy inefficient shooting the basketball. But it doesn't matter. He played 40 minutes. He had a massive usage rate. So as a result, he scores 26 points. He has 10 points. He has 4 assists. And I kind of expect more of the same today. And as long as potentially if the usage, the usage is going to be high, if the efficiency could just uptick a little bit, because he was 8 of 24 from the field last game, 8 of 13 from the free throw line, 2 of 8 from 3. It was almost like a floor game for Jaylen Brown, and he played 39 minutes. He had 38% usage rate. He scores over 40 fantasy points for Yahoo purposes. It's kind of hard to see how he fails in this kind of situation, particularly if there's going to be no Marcus Smart. There just aren't a whole lot of shot creators on that Boston Celtics roster, something I'm sure that you're aware of, Adam. It's a team that's kind of top heavy, and the pieces don't fit together all that well. So Jaylen Brown at $33, another really strong shooting guard play on Yahoo.
Greg, the Pistons have 8 guys in protocols. This is not, directly relevant to all of the guys I'm going to mention, but Cade Cunningham, Jeremy Grant, Killian Hayes, Josh Jackson, Corey Joseph, Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Stewart, among those that are all out for Detroit in that game tonight at home against the visiting Knicks. Of course, Detroit, as we know already, the worst team in the NBA, not making life all that easier. But I bring all of that up to ask you this. What about in staying at shooting guard and going with a little bit more value anyway? I mean, a guy whose min salary is $10, Frank Jackson.
Yeah, so there's a couple of guys I'm just going to tie in here just for the sake of time, because 2 of the top value plays on the Yahoo slate today both come from the Detroit Pistons. One being Frank Jackson at shooting guard at only $10, and then at small forward, Hamidou Diallo at $14. It's as simple as this. There's a ton of guys out for the Pistons. You just read off some of the names. I'll read off all of them right now. Rodney McGruder, Isaiah Stewart, Jeremy Grant, Trey Lyles, Cade Cunningham, Corey Joseph, Josh Jackson, Chris Smith, Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Livers, Saban Lee, Killian Hayes, all out today for the Detroit Pistons. There's a lot of usage to go around. There's a lot of minutes. You just have these guys that are close to min price on Yahoo that are going to have to play 30, 35, maybe even more minutes than that. So Diallo and Frank Jackson, just based on the opportunity, the amount of time they're going to be out on the court, they're really strong value options.
Diallo is projected to be 56% owned right now. Obviously, he's in the optimal. He's going to be in many, many lineups. Other guys that are popular as well, and we'll spend more time on them. I'm Derek Walton. We could have mentioned the point guard position. Doesn't project to be popular, but is a guy who could be in a good spot at minimum salary. Obviously, talked about Frank Jackson. Other guys, Sadiq Bey, obviously is going to be an attractive play for Detroit. Much of that roster is obviously going to be, but you mentioned Diallo. He is at the top of the heap when it relates to small forwards. So obviously we go to the forward position with about 10 minutes to go. Any questions you guys have, by all means, throw them out in the chat. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button on the Awesemo YouTube page. Hundreds watching with us. We greatly appreciate you, obviously. Norman Powell, again, going back to that Portland game with so many absences there for the Blazers. Yes, you have Dame, but you need other guys. Norman Powell's in a good spot. Cam Reddish for that COVID-ravaged Atlanta team. Nasir Little sticking with Portland. Gordon Hayward, you can go to the Charlotte side. That's a team that's missing bodies as well. What do you think here?
Yeah, so I like Cam Reddish the most of those names you just threw out. And we've seen from the Atlanta Hawks, even though they're getting Trae Young back, they're still shorthanded. Cam Reddish is still playing a significant role. So last game, Trae Young back in the lineup, kind of unexpected. Cam Reddish plays 40 minutes and has a 31% usage rate. So I don't have that much concern, at least for now, about Cam Reddish's role, especially not at a $15 price point on Yahoo. So Cam Reddish, to me, love him as a value option at small forward, him and Hamidou Diallo. Other guys that are going to be popular, like Nasir Little and Norman Powell. I understand why, because Portland's shorthanded as well, but the matchup just really scares me. They're playing against the Utah Jazz. The Jazz have one of the better defenses in the NBA, and I think this could be a spot where outside of Damian Lillard, Portland might really struggle to score just both real life points and fantasy points. So to me, Norman Powell and Nasir Little, a little bit too popular for my liking, and I'd rather go to also popular plays than Hamidou Diallo and Cam Reddish, who I just have projected better points per dollar.
3 of the top 8 projected rostered guys on Yahoo tonight are small forwards. Diallo, who far and away is number 1, who we talked about, obviously, and then other guys that you just talked about, Reddish and Powell, or rather Little, pardon me, are right there. Around them, you've got Clint Capella. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. Trae Young, who we talked about, Jaylen Brown, obviously, and JaVale McGee. We'll get to him in a little bit as well before we get out of here. But, that's obviously who stands out at small forward. You could look at, well, actually, before I go to power forward, what about Marcus Morris Sr.? Just given all the absences that the Clippers are dealing with on the other side of that Boston game, I mean, if ever there were an opportunity for Marcus Morris Sr. and buy into the revenge narrative if you want to, or who cares, whatever, it's just opportunity. The guy's in a great spot in his old home against his old team.
Yeah, it's a weird Los Angeles Clippers team because the player I've projected for the most fantasy points on them is Eric Bledsoe, and it's not even controversial at this point. They have so many guys that are out. We did just get Reggie Jackson test out of COVID protocols, but he's not conditioned to play right now. He was sick when he had COVID, so even though he's already met his 5 days of time in health and safety protocols, he's still not ready to play. So he's not going to be out there today. So still a big role for Eric Bledsoe. But I just don't know with Marcus Morris because he hasn't played particularly well when he's been on the court this year. Him and his brother have been hurt a whole bunch. And just look at some of these recent games from Morris. Sure, he scored 38 fantasy points last game, but he only played 27 minutes. And I'm not sure he's just going to be a guy they go throughout there to play 37, 38 minutes or anything like that, given his injury history. So Marcus Morris at $18. It's not the worst play in the world. There's just other guys I prefer at the position we've already gone over. And I think Diallo and Reddish are the small forwards to build around.
Power forwards then, with a few minutes left. And of course, the center position still to get to. Many might wonder, is it a LeBron night, Greg? LeBron James right there at the top of the heap, projected for about 53 points. He is $50, so certainly he is not cheap by any means. Kristaps Porzingis, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, Julius Randle, the guys that immediately follow him in terms of the top projected players tonight. But LeBron, he went off last night. He was tremendous last night for the Lakers. A lot of the time, I feel like we're sitting here the day after and saying, is he even going to play tonight? But there is no expectation he's not going to. I know you had some fun with that on Twitter in the last couple of days as well. We know there's no Anthony Davis. We expect Russell Westbrook. We expect LeBron James. What's James going to do on night 2?
I have him projected for the second most fantasy points on the slate. Only Trae Young is ahead of him. There's a lot of value on the slate, and there are not that many guys at the forward position to pay up for. So just by that nature, LeBron makes a whole bunch of sense on this slate. He scored over 60 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games now. And like you said, Anthony Davis is out and the Lakers are struggling. So it's a situation where there's extra usage and playing time going to LeBron right now. And given where the Lakers are in the standings, they need to start winning basketball games. And we're midway through the season at this point. The Lakers are still on the fringes of the playoff race. So I think that's one of the other reasons we're seeing a much bigger role out of LeBron as of late. His recent minutes, 39 less. They need LeBron to play 39 minutes to beat the Houston Rockets last night. And the Houston Rockets get their asses kicked by everybody. But still, the Lakers in that game needed LeBron to play nearly 40 minutes to win. It was still a close game. 40 minutes from him against the Nets, 35 against the Spurs, and that was in a blowout. 34 against the Suns, that was in a blowout. 39 against the Bulls. He's playing a whole bunch of minutes right now. Lots of usage, doing everything for this team. So I think the 2 guys that I like paying up for the most, at guard Trae Young, at forward LeBron.
What about sort of that next tier at the power forward position, whether it's, again, Julius Randle, if you want to put him in that next tier? I'm thinking like next tier off of all the names that I mentioned before. So, Al Horford, Jaren Jackson Jr., Sadiq Bey is in a really good spot for Detroit tonight. Larry Nance Jr., we were talking about Portland before, obviously. Guys, I guess, before you start to get to guys that are like projected into the 20s, that's really the 30s window.
Yeah, so I don't know if this totally fits the criteria guys are asking about, but I think there's a couple reasons to like Domantas Sabonis today. Number one, he's not that expensive compared to what we've seen historically from Sabonis, just $36. Also, Malcolm Brogdon is questionable. I'm assuming Brogdon does not play today. If that's the case, there are just not very many playmakers out there for the Indiana Pacers. They have Karis LeVert, who will be handling the ball a lot, but then also a lot of the offense runs through Sabonis. And when they don't have Brogdon out there in the past, they've run a lot of TJ McConnell point guard. TJ McConnell's out for most of the remainder of the season. And if he does come back, it's not going to be for the last, month or so, give or take. So with that in mind, they need other guys to handle the ball. It's going to be a lot of Karis LeVert and Domantas Sabonis if Brogdon isn't out there. So Sabonis at $36, a secondary pay up option to LeBron, but another one that's pretty easy to fit into lineups.
So we go to the center position, and again, get your questions in. I see some of them in there. We'll work them in before we do get out of here in a few minutes. But Nick Vucevic, again, there's no Lonzo Ball for Chicago tonight, which is probably more noteworthy for someone like Kobe White than it would be, obviously, for Vooch. But again, loss of offense, somebody can fill the gap there, whether it's DeRozan or Levine or Vooch, or whether it's spread all the way around. Vooch is the guy who is at the top right now, projected for about 43, 45 points in that window. You got Clint Capella. Again, not a lot of guys who are in a good position for Atlanta, so he stands out. Rudy Gobert. Then you get to like Miles Turner and JaVale McGee and sort of that next tier down. Robert Williams as well, with no Ennis Freedom tonight. So what do you think at the top there for the center position?
But have you been calling him Ennis Freedom? I don't know, because I don't want to confuse people.
I've been doing it because legally it's his name now, but I still like hesitate. It's hard.
I've been saying Enes Kanter Freedom and calling him Captain Freedom, but I just want to tie the name Kanter in there so people know who I'm talking about. Or
you call it Enes Kanter Freedom? Just do
just touching all the bases. And I don't. Is legal? Kanter still is legal middle name, correct?
I think, but I'm not certain. How about this? Are there any other Ennises in the NBA?
Probably not. I can't imagine. Like
so
Ennis is like.
Why don't we just call him Ennis? You'll know who it is.
Yeah, but then people will be like, "Oh no, it's a 70-year-old lady. That's not an NBA player." Who don't want to confuse people.
No, that's Edith.
No, that's my grandma Edith, and I don't even want to. I'm not even joking. That's my only grandparent that's still alive is Edith. She's 1,000,000 years old. She actually called me not too long ago. I need to call her back. I would have forgot if you didn't bring that up. But that aside, there are three plays I really like at the center position.
Okay.
I think Vooch could be popular, but there's other guys that just prefer to pay up for. I understand he's playing a little bit better as of late. Maybe that's correlated to Lonzo Ball being out. Maybe it's just regression also because he was shooting the ball so poorly at the start of the year. And now he's been much more efficient shooting the basketball. But I prefer paying up at other spots. The guys I really like to get to at the center position, JaVale McGee, who's been one of the best points per fantasy producers in the league this year. No DeAndre Ayton, no Frank Kaminsky. Big opportunity there for JaVale McGee at $17. Miles Turner at $24 for a couple of reasons. Number one, as is, he's already shown to have a whole bunch of upside this season, but he's also the player that benefits the most on the Indiana Pacers when you take Malcolm Brogdon off the court just from a usage standpoint. That, for whatever reason, has filtered a lot of extra shots to Miles Turner. You would have thought other guys benefit, and certainly Karis LeVert does, but from a usage standpoint, Miles Turner's been somebody who's benefited a whole bunch. So if there's no Malcolm Brogdon today, then I really do like Miles Turner. I like Turner anyway, but I like him a ton if there's no Malcolm Brogdon. And the other one, somebody you said before, Clint Capella. The Hawks are really shorthanded. He's $27 on Yahoo. Rebounding machine. I don't know exactly what our most recent projection is for him, but when I looked at it this morning, I believe we had Capella projected for slightly over 16 rebounds, which makes sense. There's no John Collins for the Hawks right now, and it's not like they're going to be playing other centers big minutes. So Clint Capella hasn't typically played like 40 minutes in games this year, but there hasn't always been the best game script for him to play extended minutes as of late. And I think he does have the upside to play 34, 35, 36 minutes in a more competitive game. So Clint Capella, $27. I do like him a whole ton on Yahoo.
Let's get a couple of questions in, then we'll get out of here. From Poppy Racks, Westbrook contrarian for Young. What do you think? Russ for Trey?
I prefer Trey Young. I think so. Russell Westbrook is still certainly what is he projected for? I mean, he's still expected to be somewhat popular. We're looking at projected to be in 16.6% of lineups. It's less than Trey Young at 31.6, but also I have Trey Young projected for more than 10 more fantasy points.
How about our pal Steve? He's here for every show. How about some campaign at $11? He's been getting more run, could play in a blowout against OKC.
I don't know that he would get the blowout run. And this is a slate too. I don't think we need to get too cute around the edges here. There's so much value. There are guys that we know that are min price that are going to be playing massive minutes. I'd rather play some of those guys than somebody who maybe we could talk ourselves into getting big minutes. So no campaign for me.
From Bracken Peterson, which star do you fade to get LeBron on Yahoo? I'm having a hard time getting Brown and Young with LeBron.
I actually don't think it's that hard to fit all of them together. I mean, you go those three and then you just play a bunch of cheap guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of value at, 10 to $15 in that range. How about we'll do one more from Matthew on my beloved Celtics. Thoughts on Al Horford at $26 with no Tatum or Schroeder? What if Marcus Smart plays? Does this hurt Al?
A little bit. So Al Horford to me is certainly a solid play on Yahoo, but one thing that inhibits him a little. Oh no, he's power forward. I thought he was center eligible. Mm-hmm. So let's see. So I think one of the things that just kind of hurts Al Horford a little bit is he's a good value, but not a great value for me. And there's a lot of great value on this slate. So when I'm looking at the power forward position, I like paying up for LeBron. I like getting to Sadiq Bey. I like getting to Domantas Sabonis, who I brought up before. Cameron Johnson at $17. He played 36 minutes last game with the Suns shorthanded in the front court. So there's just other guys that are higher priorities for me than Horford.
Someone wants to know if you know why your grandmother was calling.
That means she's alive. That's a positive. You can't do that if you're not alive.
You think it's just a life check?
So who knows? I don't know. I didn't listen to the message. It could have been a pocket dial. One time, and we have to turn it over to the next show. I'm well aware of that, so this will be quick. But one time she did call my mom a pocket dial, and it was like a 26-minute message of her and my grandpa.
I thought it maxed out at like 3, and then the phone just quits.
No. She's got like some old T-Mobile phone that she calls a T-Mobile that she got at the mall. It's like a flip phone, and no. She just left this message that went on for. Also, it was long ago. It was until my mom's phone ran out of storage. She just argued with my grandpa about what was in the refrigerator for forever.
Sounds like compelling.
Yeah.
I probably would have listened to it too. You can't rush to delete those calls. You got to pay attention to that stuff.
We listen to the whole thing.
We're going to get out of here. But as Greg said, starting in a couple of minutes, you got the NBA Deeper Dive show. It'll be Alex and Bearded Adam. And then Greg is coming on back at 6 o'clock. So an hour from now with our pal Lindquist for NBA Live Before Lock, 90 minutes of hard hitting stuff. And in all likelihood, some changes off of what we've just spent the last half hour talking about, because that's the NBA. Guys get ruled in, they get ruled out, they clear health and safety protocols, they enter protocols. The COVID it's running amok across the league. So stay tuned and be current. Watch all these shows. Thanks to our producer Tyler Zander, not to be confused with Eitan Shander, who was on the previous show. He's Greg. I'm Adam. I'll catch you again after the new year. At least I think that's the next time. So happy New Year if I don't talk to you. And Greg, always a pleasure, man.